Hi, everyone. Please imagine yourself coming straight out of the college and with exceptional academic grades and advanced technical skills and knowledge, and yet clueless about your strengths and your weaknesses, about how to manage yourself and managing other people. Clueless about how to regulate your emotions in a very stressful situations and respond to constructive feedback. Clueless on how to motivate yourself and motivate others. Lack of empathy towards others and a lack of understanding towards the social awareness. Now, what do you think is the common feeling over here? Managing and developing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your own emotions and the emotions of the people around you. So there are 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. The first one is the self-awareness, wherein every individual needs to have a complete understanding of their strengths and their limitations to attract opportunities. The second would be emotional regulation, to understand how to behave in stressful situations and to avoid emotional outbursts. The third is motivation, how to motivate yourself and to motivate others. Then would come empathy. And the last would be a social awareness as to how to make a sense of the people around you. Now, emotional intelligence, developing emotional intelligence in a digital era, it is becoming more and more important because the technology and the digitalized environment has reduced our human interaction to a lot of sense. So you are considered emotionally intelligent if you have an ability to identify what people are feeling, you know your strengths and weaknesses, you are a good listener, you have empathy, you are a good coach, and everything. Now, you would be surprised that even the technology organizations and the tech giants acknowledged the importance of emotional intelligence. Because what used to happen earlier, 5 or 10 years down the line, students and people with good academic grades were only considering the IQ and the academic grades as a pillar of success. Then, when they were joining their jobs or starting their businesses or starting their entrepreneurial journey, they were facing certain issues. Coming from Google, the tech giant, that emotional, that EQ is more important than IQ, really created a phenomena. So Google launched Project Oxygen in 2008, where it aimed to identify certain qualities in a manager of the organization so that the complete potential can be achieved. According to the survey and according to the Project Oxygen, a good, effective manager would be a good coach, somebody who empowers the team, somebody who empathizes with the team, is results-oriented, is a good communicator, motivates the team, and has a clear vision for the team. Now, I mean, isn't that surprising coming from Google that they are valuing EQ over IQ and EQ over the technical skills, because it realized long back that to have an organization with a complete culture and to actually get the most out of an employee, their EQ skills or their emotional intelligence skills have to be developed. Now, because my topic is related to digital era, so let's talk about the next one. Mr. Narayan Murthy of Infosys, who pioneered the IT revolution in India, also said in his book, Startup Compass, where he has published a foreword, that we need to have that high self-awareness and social intelligence related to failures, because failure is an integral part of every person's life. Knowing what to learn from your failure, knowing not to repeat the same mistake again, and knowing how that failure can be beneficial for you is very important. So now, PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi, she was considered to be a very empathetic leader because when she became the CEO of PepsiCo, she came back to her hometown and saw people congratulating her parents for her achievements. This really struck a chord with her. She realized that a parent's contribution to a child's academic success and professional success is huge. She wrote letters to all the parents of her PepsiCo employees, congratulating them and acknowledging them for their support and uh, for their support in their children's life. This created a wave of emotional connection in the company. That is why, under her leadership, PepsiCo grew miles and miles. Then Microsoft, Satya Nadella, he always emphasizes that in the long run, EQ trumps IQ. Coming from a Microsoft organization, an organization which everybody looks up to, in the current scenario, this is huge. In an interview with CNBC, he also says that I fundamentally believe in the emotional intelligence, because if we do not have emotional intelligence, we cannot build the right culture in the company. Then Amazon. Jeff Bezos' net worth is actually equal to the GDP of many countries combined. So in his interviews, he always speaks about emotional intelligence. He says that the most important emotional intelligence quality in every person is the ability to admit when you are wrong. Then he also says the importance of day one mindset. Now, what is a day one mindset? Day one mindset is the first day of when you joining a job, or the first day of you as an entrepreneur. The kind of excitement and the kind of feeling you have on the day one should be continued throughout your work in the organization. Then one-way doors and two-way doors are related to the decision-making process. And then you can't prevent failures from learning from them. And the art of regret minimalization framework. So what he did was, rather than planning for the future, he visualized himself as an 80-year-old man and planned in the back front. He planned as to what were the things he could have done, what were the things he couldn't do, which would create regret in him. So that is how he planned his journey. And of course, as we all know, customer obsession is the heart of Amazon, and that is where Amazon is where it is. And last but not the least, Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk, he always says, when asked about emotional intelligence, he always says that his biggest mistake was to put too much weight on person's talent rather than the personality. Talent is something which is there, but what you do with that talent is something which is very important, and which is emotional intelligence. So now why we did the examples and the quotations of the digital entrepreneurs is to drive home the point that these billionaires, these tech organization entrepreneurs, they are referring to the importance of EQ over IQ, which was not there a decade back. A decade back, you could have scored 99%, you could have been the topper of the class, and you were considered successful. But if you see around yourself, that is not only the parameter of success. How can I forget artificial intelligence when we are talking about the digital era? Artificial intelligence is a game changer. It is how we are doing our work right now with your ChatGPT, with your chatbots and everything. It has revolutionized the way we have worked. But still, it also recognizes the lack of emotional intelligence. So, AI will replace the human labor, but not in soft skills. Chatbots are majorly used in sales organizations and in health organizations for customer care. There is no availability of emotional intelligence there. Recently, the chatbots have suddenly started recognizing the tonality of the customer and understanding the emotion. But there is still a lack of emotional intelligence when it comes to chatbots and to other AI methods. So imagine if AI and emotional intelligence will be together, it will just completely be a game changer for the entire world, and it will transform the way we work. So, because developing emotional intelligence in a digital era, at the same time, we should not forget that emotional intelligence is needed everywhere. Everywhere, as in every aspect of life. Novak Djokovic, when he had a series of losing matches in 2016, he stepped down back, gave importance to emotional intelligence, did a huge self-awareness and understood what was he lacking. Why was he behaving the certain way when he was playing tennis matches? And look, he won the 2016 French Open, and from there on, there was no looking back. Till date, he openly credits emotional intelligence as the #1 criteria. So emotional intelligence in every aspect of our life is very important. Now, coming back to the first thing when I asked you to imagine yourself after you have completed your education, now just go back a little bit further. Go back a little bit back and just realize, imagine yourself going to a college for higher studies or for post-graduation studies and struggling with peer pressure, struggling with academic excellence, struggling with social awareness. Imagine yourself starting a hostel life, dealing with bullying, dealing with prioritizing yourself when there are no parents around, how to deal with a sense of self. When you start your romantic relationships or dating, I personally believe emotional intelligence is important in every aspect of life. To understand the other person as a human, to not lose a sense of self in a relationship, to actually understand the emotional, financial, and physical aspects of every relationship. Then, when you get married or you become a parent, how to cope with situations which we do not know that they are there, how to have coping mechanisms, how to understand marriage as an institution and be a parent. So emotional intelligence is needed in every sphere of our life. Now I would leave you just with one last thing. Why don't we make emotional intelligence as a mandatory subject in schools and colleges? We teach everything. Why don't we teach emotional intelligence as a mandatory subject in our schools and colleges? It should be a compulsory subject, wherein why does a child have to learn, unlearn and relearn all the professional and the personal nuances of his life and struggle and get to learn when they start working or when they are in college? Why not we start from the beginning? Imagine what benefit it would do to our children and to our college students that they would know their own strengths and weaknesses. They would know that, yes, this is who I am and this is the kind of opportunity I would attract if I know my strengths and weaknesses. You'll be surprised to know even an adult, even a 40-year-old person, if asked, what do you like? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Most of the people fail to answer. They don't know themselves. So how can you be successful if you are not aware of yourself? The second would be, how much beneficial for them would it be if they know how to regulate themselves? All these suicides, depressions, road rage, outbursts, everything can be controlled because a child from a childhood age to a college and going further would know how to regulate their emotions, how to take a pause before doing a particular action. Motivation. It is still easier to motivate other people. But what about self-motivation? Where will that come from? So how to motivate yourself? Empathy. Empathy is not easy to do, to actually get yourself into the other person's shoes and understanding what the other person is feeling and then trying to interact with that person. So that can be taught in schools and colleges with all these skills. And the last and the most important would be social awareness. How many of us are socially awkward? How many of us don't even know how to introduce ourselves, to do a firm handshake, to what body language plays a huge role in our social awareness? Emotional intelligence is a skill. It can be taught, it can be learned. It will be the game changer and transform the way we live our lives. Thank you so much.